5 Play Fridays coming at you right now. Stick around. Hello again, it's Greg with thebetterofficial.com. We craft video to help basketball officials get better and take control of their officiating careers. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe below the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our new content, which during the basketball season is 2 times a week. I want to say thank you for the support we've received in terms of getting our subscription count up towards our audacious goal for the season. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe. Thank you to everyone who bought us a cup of coffee this week and in the past. Much love and much appreciated. You can buy us a coffee at abetterofficial.com/coffee. Today we're going to look at traveling plays. What we want as officials is to know the rules and apply them consistently. We'd love to have every official in our local area, local association, rule on plays the same way. But the bottom line is that in this game, any game you're working, you need to be consistent with your rulings. And what we want is to be consistent as a crew. I can't address what happened the night before and how traveling was called, but in this game, we can strive for that consistency. That's our goal. Several great reminders from plays today, recognizing the timing of dribblers can fool us, so we want to be patient when looking at plays. Fundamental concept, players cannot travel while dribbling. We need to know that. When a player makes a sophisticated move, we want to look at the whole play and call the obvious. The game doesn't want us to be gotcha officials finding reasons to call violations. We need to call violations that are obvious and impact the game. Recognizing when the gym energy is cascading upon us to make a call when there's no violation. And our You Make the Call play, we'll be talking about high certainty situations and a great play for you to make the call. Stick around. Seeing a lot of this kind of foot movement where there's a stutter step, it looks funny, and officials are putting whistles on plays. If we identify the pivot foot, we have a left foot pivot foot. That means this other action is completely legal. Player even releases the ball prior to lifting the pivot foot. It's a fantastic move. Just recognize that as officials, sometimes if we're distracted or we're not giving complete attention, we make judgments based on the timing of the player's move. If there's some sort of delay that's built in, we think it's a travel. We lose our focus on the play. Many times we put violations on plays that look funny. It's a fact of life. We have to resist that temptation and judge the play on its merits. Many times you will see traveling violations called on players who lose control of the ball. But we must be holding the ball in order to travel. The dribbler cannot travel. Remember that. Let's look at rules fundamentals. It is not possible for a player to travel during a dribble. In order to travel, I have to terminate the dribble. Maybe that simple sentence will help in situations such as this. So when does the dribble terminate on this play? Ask yourself that. Player drives, pushes the ball to the floor, loses control, gathers off one foot and shoots. Even if we say the player caught the ball here with their back foot down, they still take one step, legal. We can avoid making this kind of mistake if we understand that it is impossible to travel while dribbling. The player must terminate their dribble. And in order to terminate the dribble, they have to be holding the ball. So, in the absence of holding the ball after dribbling, the player cannot travel. This is a highly skilled play by Red 5. I would implore officials, look at the entire play. We talk about seeing the whole play. Look at the entire play and see if this slight shift of the pivot foot merits a traveling call on this play. As we've shown before, there's always slight movement in a pivot foot. So when does slight movement become a violation? That's what we have to determine. And if we look at this play on its merits, this is a highly skilled sequence of movement that needs not be negated by a slight movement of the pivot foot. Bottom line is we want to reward skilled movement in our game. This is a play you want in your game. This is a badass move by Red 5. And we don't necessarily need to find reasons to negate it. This is a great play to look at and identify something funny has happened. When this occurs in your game, the energy level from the stakeholders in the game at this end, everybody's yelling travel. All the fans, everybody's yelling travel. Recognize this energy as a basic part of the game, but that does not mean that a traveling violation has occurred. Players can fumble the basketball, and if they do, they can regain the basketball, either in the spot from where they fumbled. We can look at the footwork going into the move. Catches the ball in the air, lands with 2 feet, legal. Loses the ball. They have fumbled the basketball. There is no restriction on this player's ability to regain control of the basketball. None. They have not jumped in the air and started a dribble. They just fumbled the basketball. But the most important part of this clip is to recognize the intense energy that comes with that's a travel, right? And you get this when players go to the floor. You get this when something funny happens. The energy from the stands comes down and says, that's a travel. You need to call a travel. Right? We have to resist that and say, I'm going to make a judgment about the play on its merits. We see all the stakeholders here. You can just imagine what it's like in the arena, the intense energy that's going to come from the fans for this team. Right. Some people call this a hardened step back move. In the NBA, this may be legal. I don't know. NBA has different rules than lower levels. Right. So when we look at this play, we just need to make a basic judgment, like all traveling plays, is which is the pivot foot. Players dribbling the ball terminates and shifts sideways. So let's see. They have caught the ball. Which foot is on the floor? When you catch the ball with 1 foot on the floor, that becomes your pivot foot. Player steps sideways, puts the right foot down, and then returns the pivot foot to the floor. That's traveling. Pivot foot. Pivot foot. So we've had an illegal step back move. Now let's take a look and review a legal step back move for high school basketball. So on this play, crossover, terminates the dribble. Which foot is the pivot? Easy peasy. Right foot pivot. So what are they allowed to do? They're allowed to not return that to the floor unless they land both feet simultaneously, as in this here. This is a legal play. Player's contacted, should be shooting 3 free throws. Okay. So this is our rule here. A player who catches the ball while moving or dribbling may stop and establish a pivot foot as follows. If both feet are off the floor and the player lands, not simultaneously on both feet, on one foot followed by the other, no, on one foot, the player may jump off that foot and simultaneously land on both. Neither foot can be a pivot in this case. Let's go back to our skilled example. Player may jump off of one foot, so they terminate the dribble with one foot on the floor. They are legally allowed to jump and land with 2 feet simultaneously. That's a legal play, right? You'll see this approach taught to perimeter shooters all the time. Jump off 1 foot, land on 2 simultaneously going into your shot. This player does it skillfully. The player previously did not. Last week, our You Make the Call play was a block charge play, a super close play. We talked about exhibiting strength and confidence, but we didn't actually discuss the legality and what we're looking at. In its simplest terms, this play is all about when the defender becomes legal relative to when the offensive player goes airborne. On block charge plays with airborne shooters that are close, basically all we're judging is the relative timing of the legality of the defensive player when they become legal versus when an offensive player goes airborne. But on this play, if we look at the timing between the two, when the defender becomes legal, when they get that right foot on the floor, versus when the offensive player goes airborne, when their foot leaves the floor, in this case, 2/100ths of a second between the two. So we just simply have to make a decision, make a call. Other factors that may influence our thinking. Okay, let's look at those. You remember your brain is getting stimulus. It's not as simple as, okay, his foot's down, his foot's airborne, right? We have other stimulus, and we have to recognize when those happen, our brain perceives it and makes judgments related to it. So let's look at a couple of clues here, right? The defensive player pushes an offensive player in an effort to position themselves, right? Our brain perceives that, for better or for worse. After the player goes airborne, the defensive player shifts his right foot. That has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on his legality as a defender. In the end on this play, it's a virtual tie. If we're looking at slow motion replay, this is a charge by rule. The defender has his right foot down prior to the offensive player going airborne. But again, if we're operating in the realm of 2/100ths of a second, I don't know that that's humanly possible to evaluate. Other factors that may influence an official's decision, matching plays. What kind of calls have we had on other close block charge plays? And by close, again, we're referring to the timing of when the defender became legal versus the offensive player going airborne. Have we had plays that have occurred in the game, and how did we as a crew
adjudicate those plays. These are all factors, right, that are going through an official's mind. The results from You Make the Call are 70% of respondents had a block on this play, 30% had a charge. Lots of great comments left in the comments section on the YouTube video.
And now here is Okafor with the push.
Oh, Trevor started to shoot it before he had it. There he travels.
Well, he stood up, but he did not have the basketball.
But he picked it up.
Can he stand up, not touching the ball, then grab it?
I don't think he can.
Okay.
Home team down 3, 2 minutes remaining, close ball game. Late in the game, we want to be at our best. We want to have high certainty on our calls. What do you have on this play? You make the call. We'll let you know the results next week.
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Much appreciated. Again, subscribe below. Help us hit our goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. There's video content here to continue your journey to being a better basketball official. See you in the next video. Take care.